Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the KQ Show March Madness Edition. I, myself, Kyle, is here with Rhett Zych, the man of all sports. If you have a question, he has an answer. So basically, we're going to kind of take today just to kind of talk a little bit about the brackets. Want to kind of go over some gambling stuff too. A lot of people are asking, they not sure how to really bet on NCAA and how it works and everything like that as far as the tourney goes. And then want to kind of talk about some long shots, and things like that. So. We don't want to. I don't want to go through every single pick on the, all the way through.
Sure.
I think it'd probably be a couple hours. But really, kind of looking at just like when you think about diving into the to the brackets, kind of first when you look at each kind of side. So like we talk about the South. So obviously, you've got the number one Auburn, and we got what for the South? I think it's Auburn, right? And
yes.
Yep. And two, we got
Michigan State
for the Michigan State. Yeah. So. Let's talk about the South a little bit. I mean, what do you think's happening over there, and what do you think? Any long shots?
Yeah, so Auburn is the number one overall seed. It's been mixed with Bruce Pearl as a coach. So we had a Final Four run, I believe, in 17 or 18. Mm-hmm. Don't quote me on that.
Was that with Tennessee?
No, that was with Auburn, where they're a high variance team. Now they're much more talented. They have the Broom kid. He's been banged up, but he seems to be healthy. He's been playing well. They seem to be a very talented team. That being said, even as a one seed, they're still high variance. And I think their second round game could get tricky, especially if Louisville wins. Now that game's tricky as well in the 8-9 with Louisville and Creighton. But Louisville's kind of one of those teams where, they play down to their talent. They could lose in the first round, or if they beat Auburn, you could see them being in the Final Four. I'm not pretending to have some crystal ball, but Auburn has a tendency where they could run Duke out of the gym, or any one of these one seeds, Florida or whatever, because they shoot the ball well, they play fast, but it seems sometimes when they aren't hitting their shots, the other team's able to control tempo, they can struggle. Which even if they were to play Creighton per se, that they run a little bigger, they can shoot the three. Like some of these teams that could slow it down. That second round game, they set them up for a tough one. Now I do think they get past Creighton or Louisville, the rest of the bracket can open up for them.
Okay.
Michigan State.
Yeah, that's what I want you to touch on because so here's my thing. I don't really ever follow a lot of college. I just try to kind of follow some teams I like, some of the exciting players. Watch all the Cooper Flag and Duke, but Michigan State. There's two teams that we'll talk about the other one in a little bit. But there's two teams every single year. It's Michigan State and it's Houston. Those two teams they make the tourney every year. Houston's almost like past couple years they've been like a one seed. They're like, oh, Houston, their defense. Their defense they lose in the first 3 or 4 games, and I feel like it's been the same with Michigan State. So what kind of puts them at a 2 seed?
Yeah, so Michigan State's interesting because there is some data on this. Unranked teams in the preseason that end up being in a top 2 seed tend to struggle. Now, Michigan State, though, preseason rankings, NIL era, who knows? Like, there's a lot more moving parts than there's ever been. So, did they overachieve in the regular season? We'll find out. Tom Izzo, his track record tends to speak for itself, though. So, one of these kind of rules is when in doubt, lean on the coach that historically tends to do well. And there are some guys that it doesn't matter their seed. Like Izzo's made the Final Four as a 7th seed. So those type of things, I kind of trust him. They run about 10 or 11 guys. So that's good. They're deep. I think their end of the bracket on the bottom side is favorable.
Yeah, it does seem pretty weak. I mean, favorable is that definitely because really you only have Iowa State, and I don't know shit about Iowa State. Yeah,
so it's kind of funny. The SEC struggled in college football this year for like the first time in a while, but because the NIL I think hurt them because the diversification of talent where they used to hoard it, went kind of spread the talent out from the SEC to these other schools, right?
Yeah.
Well, on the other hand, SEC basketball, other than the Kentuckys of the world and these blue bloods, Florida went under Billy Donovan and stuff like that, who had some runs there. They, they actually benefited from NIL, where some of these basketball teams, where their football schools have, I mean, they put 14 teams in.
That's filthy. I couldn't believe it.
It's every side. They beat the absolute shit out of each other in conference.
Oh my God, it was crazy. When you look, oh, how is Florida so good? Then you see the teams they beat, and you're like, how's Alabama? Then you see the team they're just like the biggest players playing each other, which is crazy.
Yeah. So, you look at a team like Ole Miss as a 6 seed. They could be a problem for Michigan State because they're battle tested. They played against teams like Michigan State in the SEC. If they were to meet in the Sweet 16. Iowa State's interesting. They played well, and then down the stretch, I think they got banged up, and they kind of struggled. Historically speaking, I know we're talking about the South region, but if I'm looking at this to kind of back up a little bit from a broad perspective, it's nice to pick. Don't get me wrong. I would love for Wofford to go to the Final Four.
I would love Akron Zips go to the.
Yes, I will be rooting for him. Don't care that it busted my bracket. It's awesome. It makes it fun.
I'm gonna do one. Okay, the fantasy bracket.
So like that's fun. Statistically speaking, I think it's been in the last 150 teams to make the Final Four. I think it was like something just over 30 or something like this. Don't quote me on the exact stat, but it's within this realm of a sample size where 30 of those teams or so, or it was about 15%. So that's not the right math, but 15% of it, 15 to 20% were not in your first 4 seeds, meaning like they were outside that made the Final Four. So like, those runs.
I would see like 5s and 7s. I would sneak their way.
Yeah. So like. Yeah, you've had some runs from an 11 seed. You've had like Florida Atlantic last year, I believe it was, that made the Final Four. You had NC State that made it from the 11 seed. You've had some stuff. George Mason.
That's what it was.
You had Loyola Chicago. Mm-hmm. Those are great stories. Don't get me wrong. I think Butler's first run, they were maybe a 6 seed. You're going to have those. I do think that the number 1 seeds are true number 1s this year, where in the past maybe you're like, all right, they had to throw in a 4th number 1 seed, but they're probably a 2 seed.
That was always always like St. John's or Virginia or something. They were always like, And when did the year they lost, I think, wasn't it?
Well, and then they won the following years. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of that's the other thing too, and I'll get into it. And I know we're going region by region, but if I'm doing that pool, at the very least, like yes, you want to pick an upset. If you're in like this pool with 30 to 40 to 50, you want to get creative with teams you think can make a run. But in all honesty, you probably want to, especially in my opinion, in this tournament, stick to the 1 through 4 seeds. They look pretty strong. So, there are some teams that can make a run. You asked me for a long shot.
Yeah, shoot for a long shot out of the South. What's the craziest or like the besides Auburn or Michigan State? Who do you think what would surprise you to come out of the South? I guess
come out. I think Ole Miss is live. Okay, I think Iowa State is live, depending upon. I think, like we talked about, at the bottom of that bracket, Michigan State I think is the best team, but I don't think by an exponential factor. Auburn is the best team in this bracket. People are talking about the Duke side. I think Auburn's toughest game, unless they ran into Michigan State in the Elite Eight. I think Auburn's toughest game could be their second round game, just based on a matchup thing.
Yeah, because Duke's got to go. I mean, I think it's gonna be Duke Alabama. I mean, but even if it's not, I mean,
another team, and it's interesting because Vegas is saying this as like a team that can maybe make a run to like a Sweet 16, like a Sweet 16 darling, is UC San Diego. They are
hold on. You're talking about San Diego State University?
No.
Okay.
University of California, San Diego. They just moved up.
So hold on. So there's a SDSU.
Oh yeah.
And a U.
Oh, it's like California State.
Yeah, it is.
Bakersfield, San Obispo, your mom's basement.
Yeah,
it's all
random
fucking California schools. You can't keep track. UC San Diego. Okay.
Now where are they out of? Where are they at?
They're playing Michigan first round, which is ironic because just to put let's put this in perspective. Michigan won the Big Ten championship this past Sunday. Okay.
Yeah, a terrible display of basketball.
The current spread on that game against UC San Diego. So it's a 12-5. Oh, another thing. Historically, if you're picking upsets, 12-5, 11-6s are the best odds. There's 12-5s are the best, 11-6s tend to be the second. Just because of the matchup. So this is what Vegas is telling us. Michigan is only favored by 2.5 points. Okay.
Oh,
now,
shit, are you serious? Now, was that going to change, or is there any?
shit. I mean, we'll get into another one, but there's another interesting one. So there's two things you got to look at. Are the people doing these pools aware of that? And if they are, then it's they're gonna be a chalky upset pick, or they're not.
Yeah.
But you also got to look at recency bias. So we just talked about Virginia, right? So everyone the next year for Virginia, they were the 1 seed fucking again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was stupid about this, but it made me think. Well, recency bias, like, well, last year they lost to the 16th seed. Well, the general public's going to be like, I remember watching that game. They got upset. But they went and ran the table for the tournament. So people who use that leverage that had Virginia from a game theory standpoint they end up from a game theory standpoint, hey, I picked Virginia to win. I didn't think a lot of people were going to pick it. So think of it like DFS for football. They're 4%
Yeah.
Okay, with a high variance to win.
Mm-hmm.
So like UC San Diego is one of those where, they could be a chalky upset, or they could be under the radar just based on your tournament pool. And that's something you kind of have to gauge based on a larger pool or your buddies that like, oh, this guy's an upset fucking hound.
Or you'll also be in here. There's no Notre Dame in here, so a lot of people are gonna go just, hey, Michigan, Michigan State.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, or vice versa.
Local bias.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that UC San Diego and like Yale beat Auburn last year. They play A&M. Okay, so A&M's another high variance team. They are hot and cold, man. They beat Auburn, but they'll lose to,
You said Yale beat Auburn
last year.
Okay.
They beat BYU. They upset BYU. Right?
Yep, I do.
There was an Ivy League team that won.
Mm-hmm.
That was big upset. They always pain in the ass to play because they're 95 years old. They've been, so like, for instance, let's say UC San Diego wins. Here's like where a range of outcomes. And even if A&M or Yale, let's say Yale upsets A&M, now it's up in the air for that Sweet 16 spot. So like, you can get creative in those things.
Wow. Just changing it.
These little pockets like are where you can maybe get creative. Where like, hey, I have chalky stuff within the Elite Eight and the Final Four, but I'm going to get creative on where I'm going to pick certain teams to make runs.
Because you're saying, even that Yale and UC San Diego, you're going to end up running into Auburn. So I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So even if I miss out on it,
you could get creative on that whole. You could have Yale and UC San Diego go because chances of them beating Auburn's not. So you could have both them beating.
Exactly.
Okay, I got you. That makes sense. I got you.
Either way. So, and I think even if Yale were to beat, A&M, vice versa, and Michigan ends up winning, I think Yale's viable to beat Michigan too. And Michigan's recency bias, they just won the Big Ten championship. You heard Rick Pitino say this with St. John's. He kind of wants to lose in the Big East tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Probably shouldn't say that out loud for, his benefactors for all the money they get. But part of that is like, man, like it's statistically hard to win 15 games in a row. You run the conference tournament, you run that, and that's the thinking. Or like it kind of grounds these teams of like, man, we were good, we got beat. Okay, this can happen if we don't bring our game. But those two games, that A&M and the UC San Diego or Michigan game, are out of the South, are the two games I would pick. Of course, when I say that, Lipscomb's going to be like Iowa State or something like that. But those games kind of I've identified in the South as like possible upset stuff. So all right. So yeah, you're looking at the South. I mean, chances are it's probably. I mean, you talked about the strength of the ones. Excuse me. So I mean, really, chances are everybody's going to have. Auburn going all the way. I mean, I don't see it. I don't because I really don't see. It's pick your poison. It could be chalk. Auburn, Michigan State. If you want to get, if you think everyone's on Auburn, take Michigan State. You get some leverage, right? Or I think a team like Ole Miss, or that 3-6 game, that Ole Miss Iowa State teams, they could make a run to the Elite Eight and then possibly upset Auburn. It's coming out of the Final Four. Those two teams, I think it's Auburn, Michigan State. Strength of schedule, yeah. And then to me, it's Iowa State or Ole Miss. Ole Miss good enough to make a run. Yeah, and they have a very good coach, Chris Beard, who was at Texas Tech, who took his team to the final from Texas Tech a while back. was at Texas, turned them around, and then I think he beat his wife or something, or it was like a weird thing. He got fired from Texas, and then he ended up winning a lawsuit. Sidebar. But anyway, he's slated to be the new IU coach, supposedly.
Yeah.
So hey, well, we like ornery wife beaters in Indiana. So
it seems to be a trend. All right, so let's pop on. Let's pop on over to the west side. So head on down. So, I mean, pretty much this bracket, I mean, everybody, Florida's garbage. They'll lose first round. So, other than that, I mean.
I will say this. Everyone says Florida has the toughest bracket. But the teams that I have watched recently that I saw play. Now, if Duke has Cooper Flagg.
He's back. He's good.
Yeah, it seems like Duke is playing very well. But Florida is the best team I've seen play.
So my thing is, I don't. Again, I'm coming out of my bias.
Just eye test, man.
Yeah. So like I watched the when they played against Tennessee for the SEC, and I didn't know anything. So going into it, I literally just watched maybe one day of college sports before the bracket started. I was like, Florida, really? And I'm kind of because Craig's team. Craig's a big Florida fan, so I don't really have any scratches games. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'm happy for Florida. And I watched them play, man. It's like they have so much depth. The players coming off the bench are just phenomenal. It just seems like the depth is so.
I was
crazy.
very impressed, I'll be honest too. Like, I don't watch near the college basketball I did 10 years ago.
Yeah,
because I'm so. Well, I mean, we've done podcasts in the past. I'm more on the football side of things.
Yeah.
I tend to pick it up more after the Super Bowl. When I, it just kind of getting into the gear for the March Madness.
It's the depression time for me.
Yeah, it's a good breather, right?
There's a week where you're like
40 days, 40 nights out in the desert.
there's no sports at all.
Talking to the devil. So it's like
some forklift tournaments on at 3 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. What is it? Who cuts the pretzel the most symmetrical?
Oh, what did the one you sent me just? The one that was it like 5 chicks fighting a dude or something?
Oh, yeah.
Was,
and then this dude beating the shit out of these chicks.
He was usually
hey, they signed the waiver.
Yeah, I bet the under.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I will say this. Florida wins their first round game, and assuming UConn beats Oklahoma, even though UConn's down, you still have to beat the 2-time defending champion in the second round. I mean, they do have a tougher route, per se. You look at the 2 with St. John's.
Now is that Pitino?
Yes.
Okay.
My qualm with Pitino is obviously a very good tournament coach. He's taken Louisville when they were barely even ranked, and they won a title. He's Kentucky. He's been in.
He's like a Belichick. He can win with a different team than anybody.
Games,
yeah.
Yes.
He knows how to play the players.
The weird thing is, what scares me about them, they are the number 1 team in the nation in defense efficiency, but they're like 75th in offense.
Is it St. John's?
Yes.
Because I heard that their shooting percentage is terrible. They don't shoot well.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Well, yeah, it's a fucking rock fight every time you play them.
It looked like the Michigan.
So So to me, when they play even teams or lesser teams, they're going to kill them because the other team just can't score. Yeah. But when they meet probably teams that can figure out ways to score, or
they could run into Kansas right away.
Kansas is weird because they've underachieved.
They did last year too, didn't they?
Yeah, Bill Self wrote a love letter to himself for the fans. There was some drama there. To look it up when you got time. It's some weird stuff.
They hire Eberflus?
Yeah, I don't know, man. He's going through some shit. And I think Bill Self is one of those with these coaches where, hey, you were a top 5 coach when you were the only one paying the players, and now everyone's paying the players, and now you're a 7 seed. So let's find out if you can coach, man. But it's still Kansas, and they have high-level talent. So that's a scary second-round game. Arkansas has Calipari. So that's their coach.
Yeah, that's SEC.
So
how'd they do in the SEC?
They were all right. You have to kind of be careful when you have 14 teams. These teams that finish 10th through 14th, are they good or are they good by association? You know what I'm saying? So hey, we're dragging you along. You had a decent record, but are you talking about UNC? Well, that's a whole other conversation. But Jesus Christ,
boy, somebody's on.
Hi, I'm the AD and the chairman or the committee chairman. in no way my $100,000 bonus had
Yeah.
any conflict of interest to putting them in the tournament.
They had I think it was West Virginia coach on there ripping them up.
The governor is like,
yeah, that's what it was. The
starting
governor
a lawsuit.
Yeah, he has a second time.
We are
and he
so
won the
back.
last one.
We are so back. Sue them fuckers. No, so like, I will say this. I think with the bracket in the West, I think Florida's the best team. I do think like these games, I will say this with the NIL era, these games are awesome in the first round.
Yeah.
Because it's like you look at spreads, like other than the 15-2 and the 1-16, it's like 6 5-point spreads across the board. And I mean, and we'll get to another game. Oh, okay. So you want to get to this?
Yeah.
Colorado State's the 12th seed. They play Memphis, who just won the AAC. Penny Hardaway. Okay. And Memphis is another team they could be like Auburn was when Bruce Pearl went to the Final Four. They could lose their first round game or beat Florida. Like that's how they are. They are high variant. They played at the level of their competition. Like UAB gave them all they could handle in the championship game. I watched that game. But yet Colorado State is favored over them as a 12 seed. So they are minus 2.5 point favorites. And the interesting thing, Colorado State is a very interesting team. So their metrics are off because they sucked in November and December. The coach made lineup changes and reverted it, and they have been on a fucking tear since. So like they are a dangerous team. They are very dangerous. But that's one where the metrics aren't right. Like they could be underseeded.
So when you when you say underseeded, so
like they probably shouldn't be a 12. Like they should probably be a 10. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So like they're favored over the 5 seed. Like
so walk me through what's going on with Memphis then? Why are they?
So well, I think no, Memphis is good. They're just like I said,
strength of schedule for sure.
They played at the level of their competition. So like they went through the AAC, which they have some decent teams there, but like they didn't blow through them.
Mm-hmm.
They were losing, or the game was close against UAB late in the conference title game. Like it was kind of all over the place, but like they're a team that could make a run. These high variance teams is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, yeah, because
so like they can make a run or lose to Colorado State, and I do think if Colorado State, now Maryland's a good ball club, but like Maryland's first 5 is good, but anyway. Colorado State, like you look at this stuff, like you have a 12 seed legitimately favored over a 5 seed, and I mean it's not like hey the 5 seed is 2-point favorites or something. The 12 seed is legitimately favored, and you just don't see that. At least that I can remember historically. But I mean, I'm sure there's some variance there, but yeah, they're minus 2.5. I mean, shit, they're minus 142 on the money line.
That's crazy. I don't know.
So like, I don't know. Does the public that's doing your everyday pool know that? And then, so then Memphis is the big pick because, hey, they won the conference title.
Yeah.
Who the hell is Colorado State? Does it show where the games are played on your thing there?
It says you can't hate the player, but you can play the game. That's not
because that's another thing too. So like,
it just says
so like some of these games that are played out in Seattle that are traveling, or we'll get to it, but like, well, we'll get to it when we get to the East bracket. But there's some interesting like, where they're playing and how that can affect.
Okay,
people are big on Texas Tech. Making a run,
because they have a pretty easy. Because I mean, I don't know anything about Mizzo. What's their?
Well, people like Drake.
Yeah, and I keep seeing that. I keep seeing that. I have them going on most of them.
That could be a chalky upset pick. So check this out. Drake hired a new coach this season,
especially after that beef with Kendrick.
Literally I think has coached like some like 500. I can't even remember the stat, but. He's been coaching a very long time and he doesn't have triple digit losses. He's won like back-to-back Division II national titles. He brought his entire Division II team with him. It's like Signetti with IU. He brought James Madison. These guys know how to fucking win.
Yeah.
And like they're a problem. They are a problem. And all these kids at Drake, like half their team's from Kansas City.
Damn, and average is 19 points a game.
And who didn't recruit these kids from Drake that had to go to D2? Fucking Missouri. So there's a chip on the shoulder. So there's like other outside things
of like people are putting Drake. I mean, I had them going.
So like it could be a chalky upset pick. Missouri's a team that's pretty good. They play fast. It's interesting. It's a contrast in styles in that specific game. Missouri plays very fast. Drake plays very slow. So whoever controls the tempo is going to control the game, which will probably go. I still think Florida's the best team in this bracket, and I honestly don't think it's close.
Yeah, I don't think that there's.
I mean,
I would say they have the easiest way. I mean, Houston's got a journey. We'll get to that one soon, but so let's talk. So if we talk about the South, I'm sorry, the West. So you said
so in my initial shoot from the hip, I have Florida coming out
over who?
Texas Tech.
Okay, so you got Texas Tech over.
Granted, I do a bunch of these brackets, but the one I'm looking at now that I like to do one where I just look at it and I just write down, it's like a rough draft of a thing. Yeah. I took Texas Tech, and actually I took Kansas to beat St. John's in the second round. That's just, that won't be on all my stuff, but I'm just looking at the bracket that I filled out.
Yeah.
So I think Texas Tech out of the 3 spot can make a run. And basically the bottom half of that bracket with the 6 all the way down to St. John's
can kind of be up for grabs.
Yeah.
Except for UNCW maybe.
Yeah, no, Omaha.
Is that the win in tonight or no? Oh, no. It's
no,
not.
I would say even if for instance, if Drake wins, they're good enough and they're a problem. They could be a darling. If Missouri wins, they could be a darling. Any one of those. I think the bottom half of that bracket could be a bloodbath. So I would lean into variance there, as opposed to the chalk, in my opinion. But we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. Good deal. All right, let's talk about the East Side. So East Side, obviously, number 1 Duke. Number 2, Alabama. So it was pretty big 1 and 2s.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts breaking down the East?
As long as Duke's healthy, they're easily the best team. Yeah. So when you get to Alabama plays a more modern style. It's like 10 seconds in the shot clock and they're shooting the ball. They play fast, really, really fast.
Now, are they high percentage shooting or?
Yeah, I mean they're 2 seed for a reason.
Okay.
But they're definitely out now. Whether this matters against Robert Morris, but one of their top big men, Grant Nelson, he injured his knee
for Alabama.
Yes.
Oh, is he officially out?
He's out for the first.
Oh,
game.
okay, just first game.
So the quote from Nate Oates, who's the coach, is he's questionable for the first round matchup. It sounds like he's not, because then he says, the hope is to at least get him back for a potential Sunday game against St. Mary's or Vanderbilt. He goes, we need to get him healthy. Not sure he'll be ready by Friday. We're hoping at a minimum he'll be ready by Sunday with the possibility of Friday. Now, he does go on to say, we dodged one. It wasn't anything too serious with his knee, but will for sure be questionable. So it's something. It wasn't an ACL.
Yeah.
And so, does it affect them in the 15, in the 2 versus 15? Probably not. Could it affect them in the second round? Depends on with Vanderbilt and St. Mary's. But, if they end up taking on BYU and Wisconsin, it could be if it lingers. So just keep an eye on that.
So here's where it gets dodgy. So obviously Arizona, I feel like they're in the tourney every year. Arizona, I don't know, they're always they're rated high, but I just never. They're another one. They always end up just losing out. Like the first 2, no matter where they're ranked, they could be ranked all up as high as 2, and I feel like they always kind of end up losing pretty early. I mean, so when you think about between the Wisconsin, Arizona, and Oregon, the 3 to 5s, anything in there that you think could shock anybody? You got Oregon going against Liberty Mutual.
So I like Oregon. Okay. Dana Altman has proven to take his teams to Elite 8s, Sweet 16s. A multitude of, he's a good tournament coach. Mm-hmm. Akron's going to be a chalky upset pick over Arizona because of what you just stated. I don't know what the betting splits are on that, but as far as I guess I could, give me 1 second, I can look it up here. But
good Lord, strength of schedule, 11th versus 138th.
Yeah. Akron's they're one of those MAC teams that are just going to be a problem. But yeah, like you said, Arizona, they're good, but like you're right. There's just something there where they don't really get over the hump come tournament time. Right now, let's see if I can find this.
Oh, they got BYU.
Okay. So Akron is catching 14.5 points. So you might want to take the points on that one. Because I think that's too large of a spread. Arizona still might win, but I'm not fucking laying 15 points for them.
Yeah.
So, whether it's Akron, I think, Oregon and Arizona in a former Pac-12 matchup. Now that it's really funny. I think Oregon. I just got to this as far as BYU is playing VCU. VCU, man, they gave BYU a tough ass draw. VCU.
See, I have them going too far in this one, but
VCU is a good team.
Yeah.
What scares me is they have a short turnaround. They played on Sunday. They're playing in altitude in Colorado on Thursday. So
but they don't have sexual intercourse, so their cardio is probably strong.
They definitely had sexual intercourse after they won the title. I can tell you.
Well, it's soaking.
Well, yeah. Well, no, that's BYU.
That's what I thought. I thought you talking about BYU over VCU.
No, I'm saying BYU would. I'm saying Virginia has to travel to Colorado.
Okay.
Play in altitude, and that it could be the deciding factor in that. Let's see if they wane down the stretch. If you watch that game, because it could, and it's going to be a BYU travels. All the damn Mormons are out there, they're traveling. So,
I think I got to bring them young on that one.
Yeah. Well, I actually have, that's my one team. I think it's my own, I guess, maybe self-bias. Cause like they're a high variance team where they shoot a lot of threes. They can knock you off the court. Or, I saw them play Houston. And what I noticed, you want to talk about a talent, and we'll get into Houston. BYU couldn't get a fucking shot off. Like Houston's defense was that good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so when they get to like a team like Duke, or even
Wisconsin,
Wisconsin. So that
battle. Depending if you have anything to say about Montana, I don't think that's really
no.
I don't think that's
I think who knows, but I mean Montana in this day in NIL, I do think some of these 14 and 13 and 12 seeds are going to have probably some better athletes than what they've had in the past with NIL. That being said, I think Wisconsin has been playing well down the stretch. I think Oregon can make a run in their little hub of a Sweet 16, but I think Duke has a red carpet laid out to him for the Final Four. And if it's me, I think one of these teams, to your point, BYU, Wisconsin, could make a run, especially if Grant Nelson, who's their one of their premier big men, is hurt. That could prove to be, against a fairly matched opponent, a problem for them. But yeah, I think the red carpet's out for Duke. Cooper Flagg's playing.
Mm-hmm.
I think you even rest him for the
I think that'd be a good idea too. Yeah, I think they already
so he's going to be rested, and even so, but I think it. Yeah, I would say the two teams outside the 1 and 2 seeds are, to me, an Oregon or BYU, Wisconsin. That could make runs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually fading more Alabama. I think they go to like the Sweet 16, but I think their style of play, I guess, could be tricky, and they've won some games, but it's like, man, if they play a team that can play some defense and at least get back and whatnot, like in a 1-game sample, I think what they're doing on the shot clock side of things, if they go cold, it's a problem. And that's part of this high variance stuff with like these teams that like chuck it from the cheap seats and play it that way.
Okay. So let's creep on to the dirty Midwest. So number 1 seed always Houston. We got a 2 seed Tennessee holding up that SEC, and then to complete the rest of the SEC, you got Kentucky at a 3, which was surprising. I didn't know they came. I didn't know they.
I don't think Kentucky's very good.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd be.
I think they can score. They don't fucking play defense. So I think that they are. So check this. I mean, this is wild that I'm doing this, but like, so the 11 seed play-in game. Here's a stat for you. One of those teams that wins.
Is that Texas?
Or
Regular Tech
Xavier.
and Xavier?
So like, and then you have UNC and San Diego State on the other side. Since they've started to do it, I think all but 1 year, that 11 seed has made it to the round of 32, which they've won their first round game.
Okay.
And I think in the last 3 or 4 years, the team's gone to the Sweet 16. I don't know, because they get a game under their belt on Tuesday and they kind of get, the motor running. But so I actually have, because Illinois is one of those teams where they play to the level of the competition. They're ripe for an upset. They could win by 40, or they lose, they get upset.
I didn't think Texas Xavier. Both those are pretty strong teams, though. I mean, it's not like the play-ins, like.
Yeah, well, that's why, like, with these 11 seeds, it's interesting because, like, they're never bad teams. It's teams that, squeezed in.
Man, they could sneak through past Kentucky, you think?
Oh, I do. I think Illinois could beat Kentucky. I mean, any one of those. I think Kentucky is ripe for an upset. Shit, it wouldn't surprise me, and I didn't pick this, but it wouldn't surprise me if Troy beat. Like, Kentucky is all offense and no defense.
Do a crazy bracket, pop Troy in there?
Well, I mean, or just straight wagering. How much is Troy getting? Give me a second. Sorry. Troy, I should have wrote down the spreads, but I did not.
Oh, you're fine. I stopped recording an hour ago.
Okay, thank you.
It's like a small
All right.
It's Burton. They're deep.
Yeah, I'll sing. So yeah, Troy's getting 11.5, and they're plus 525 on the money line. I would at least take the points. You
circle that.
UCLA is a team that Mick Cronin always does well in the tournament because they play good defense.
Sounds like a great wrestling name too.
It does. I struggled with the bottom half of this bracket, and what I mean by that is, like, Tennessee was playing really good basketball. They ended up losing to Florida in the SEC championship game.
And it made it. But
Florida. They were playing well.
Yeah, I mean, they were, and it's just like, man, when they got in foul trouble, guess what? Their talent level dropped. When Florida got in foul trouble, like, hey, do you next 6 months of the year?
Yeah.
Do you? What do you?
Yeah,
it's
so
crazy.
Yeah,
it was
that's
Tennessee.
a very good point. I think Tennessee just ran out of gas.
Yeah.
But they're playing well. But that's a tough matchup against. And Utah State's no joke either, man. They're a tough little squad.
I got them going.
So
past the first.
But like either one of those games aren't easy. I think Kentucky is a week 3 seed. I'm going to be fading them. The one I'm going to anger some people. The Purdue. So thankfully Purdue went to a final last year because Matt Painter has had some epic meltdowns in the tournament. Arkansas, Little Rock.
Oh, was that when they were the 1 seed and lost to 13? Was that them?
Yes. St. Peter's. That was a 15 seed.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah,
they were a 2 seed.
They were a 2 seed. That's right. Yeah.
Or no. Yeah, they lost. Or either way. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's only happened a couple times. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but they've had epic meltdowns, and he went to the final. So High Point. I didn't believe this when I heard it, so I have to credit the radio for this. But then I looked it up. So High Point has like $2 million allocated for NIL money for like this small little school. So like, they're no joke, man. They are a problem. Like they're, I think they have like 29, 28. They might even have 30 wins. I mean,
they got 29 wins, 5 losses.
Yeah, I don't,
5 losses.
Their strength of schedule, but like,
right.
But they're a problem. And Purdue doesn't have the 7-footer in the middle. They're still talented. Don't get me wrong. But we've seen Purdue meltdown or Painter meltdown in these positions. I hope they don't, but High Point's a problem. Clemson is a good team. They have an injury to one of their starting 5 guys that could.
Oh, is that the team they were talking about? It finally been ruled out.
Yes.
Shit. I mean, is that going to be big for them?
Yeah.
Like, that's
so
one of their
basically,
main guys.
they were running one lineup and they were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's Chance Hunter's brother. I can't remember.
Chase Hunter?
Chase Hunter's brother. Yeah, that's his name. Chase Hunter. Sorry. So it's Dylan Hunter. I think he's the one who's out, maybe?
He injured his hand, expected return. What?
Yeah, he broke his wrist. Okay. So, when they put him into the lineup, they started really winning some games in the ACC, and he's out. I still think they probably get past McNeese State, although McNeese State was in the tournament last year and they were a darling. And
and then
McNeese. They lost.
Yeah.
Their coach, Will Wade, was the coach at LSU that I think, oh God, now I'm going back in the database here. That was part of got caught paying players like Ben Simmons of the world.
Yep.
And now that that's allowed, he's going to get the next high profile job after McNeese State. But he's a good coach. And then on the same level, you have Houston, who I think is talented, and Kelvin Sampson is a good coach. But they could be playing Gonzaga in the second round. And Mark Few has gone to the Sweet 16 for the last decade. And that's not an exaggeration. That's not hyperbole. They did Houston dirty given that 8-9 game and then the Louisville Creighton for Auburn are no joke 8-9 games. Mississippi State versus Duke, Duke will handle them.
So what are you thinking here? So all right, so first of all, we'll start. So if Houston's going to run into something, the first thing they're going to run into is either a Georgia or a Gonzaga. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think Gonzaga could be, depending upon how the tournament or the bracket plays out. Now, not to say Tennessee wouldn't be, but I think Gonzaga could be their hardest challenge, assuming Gonzaga wins. They still got to win.
Mm-hmm.
Until they probably get to the Elite Eight, assuming they face Tennessee.
Who? Gonzaga?
Houston.
Oh,
Houston.
okay.
I'm saying if they get past, but
Gonzaga, you're looking at a possible Clemson, even if they get there,
a banged up Clemson, or let's say
possibly a Purdue sneaks in.
Yeah, I mean maybe Purdue can make a run, but if Purdue plays Houston, they're going to get dog walked. The guard play is is insane.
I should question.
But you could get a banged up Clemson. Let's say High Point upsets Purdue. You get a banged up Clemson in the Sweet 16. Houston should roll. The bottom of the bracket, Kentucky, I think, is overrated. Tennessee and UCLA, probably that second round matchup probably dictates who goes to the Elite Eight.
And you think UCLA's got Utah?
That game's up in the air.
I don't know if that was one you have any.
That was me favoring the coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mick Crone's a good coach, but and a good tournament coach. But
you don't think they'll get by Tennessee though?
I don't. Although Rick Barnes is another one. Okay, Rick Barnes, regular season Rick. Now he made an Elite Eight run, but historically when he was at Texas prior to Tennessee, we're talking about a Rick Barnes that had Kevin Durant and T.J. Augustine on the team and lost in the second round.
Yeah.
So he is notorious for but it's you look at the game, I want to fade him, and I'm like, well, this isn't the spot to fade him, and then I put him in the next round. I'm like, well, this isn't the spot to fade. I'm like, next thing I know, I have him in the Elite Eight. And I'm
well, yeah, now look,
God damn it, I made a point to fade Rick Barnes because he's this coach who is a hell of a recruiter, wins in the regular season, and I mean, it should be he should have done prison time for not at least going to the Sweet 16 with Kevin Durant on his team. He could have had us out there and Kevin Durant and still should have made the Sweet 16 in my opinion. But so that's another thing. You got the Rick Barnes thing. I could see UCLA maybe upsetting them. I don't know. I went chalk, but yeah, I think where the 2 seeds are and where it's been a trend for me at looking this, the bottom half of the brackets seem to be very up in the air as far as who could come out of each region. Whether I think St. John's is a ripe 2 seed, and I hate to say that because I like Pitino, but I think Michigan State has Izzo, another good coach, but how good was the Big Ten? Alabama, banged up, play an interesting style that could be matchup dependent. And Tennessee, who seem to be playing well, obviously, to your point, showed why they're a 2 seed when they play against Florida, right?
Yeah.
Still a great team.
Mm-hmm.
and they also have Rick Barnes as a coach. And these like matchups you have, it's great because it's like, dude, like, oh, UCLA, Utah State, that game's probably gonna be rad. Like, like all these spreads are just like it's wild. Like Drake, Missouri, 6.5 points. Yale and Texas A&M, 7.5 points. Kansas, Arkansas, 4.5. Georgia, Gonzaga is 5.5. VCU, BYU, 2.5. Like,
yeah,
Utah State, UCLA, 5.5. Like I said, UC San Diego is only plus 2.5. Like you have some of these wide ones, like, but that when you get into the 3, but it is like Vegas is telling us like that these seeded teams are close. Like High Point's only catching 7.5 points against Purdue.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. That's
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Vegas is either the spreads they smell, and we should lay the points.
Yeah.
Or it's like, what the fuck do they know? Because like,
yeah, that's it too much.
In my opinion, Purdue, in theory, 2 years ago, they're probably a 10, 11 point favorite in that game. Like you're talking about a 4-point swing. Now, you just don't know. But yeah, I think I'm like right now in this one, I had 3-1 seeds and I put Michigan State in.
I have all, yeah. I'm literally, I broke it all the way down and I've scrolled down and I've got all 4
And I got to look back. This was the one I shot from the hip. I got it like one of these, on one of my brackets, these teams that I talk about a run, whether it's like I have Texas Tech in the Elite Eight. Maybe I say like, maybe they do beat Florida, or maybe a team like, if Gonzaga gets by Houston.
I got Texas going against Florida at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So, or I have BYU going to the Elite Eight, or this like an Ole Miss team with a good coach. Do they make a run? Some of these teams that I talk about that are capable of going to the Sweet 16.
Yes. Yeah.
Do I take a shot on them to maybe win one more game? Or hey, if they're one, like some of these teams that go to the Sweet 16 that I'm like, hey, they're good enough to go to the Sweet 16. And you put in this caveat, and the bracket plays out in their favor, they could go to the Final Four. You play into that, right? But, some of these teams, there's going to be a team that I didn't even discuss. That's going to, maybe it's Iowa State coming out, beating Michigan State. They go against Auburn. Excuse me. And, like I said, some of these teams that come out of the bottom half of the bracket, maybe it's Kansas that makes a run.
Yeah. There's a lot that's in there.
Excuse me, sorry.
I mean, yeah, it's just weird when you look at, like, I try to break it down as best I can. I was into being, everyone I've done, it just seems like I just don't see a 2. There's really no 2. Maybe Michigan State's the only one. Again, it's coming from my, lack of knowledge, but I just feel like every time I pick Michigan State, and I try to stay away because in this area, I think people are more homers. So they want to pick teams that are low. So the people are going to more pick Purdue.
That's very true.
So I try to kind of,
that's good.
Just avoid that.
Game theory, if you know your boys.
Just because people are like, oh, Michigan's in it, cool. Oh, Purdue, all right. So some people just don't know, because I used to do the same. But yeah, it's just tough to see. I mean, this is the top. Besides Houston, which I don't know much about. All I know about Houston is every year they're one. They make it pretty far, but they always lose to somebody. They go, oh, their defense is going to just demolish them, and then they end up losing it. They don't make it. I don't know. As far as, but again, it's a different year. So I mean,
on the top part of their bracket, the hardest team I think they play, and this includes the seeding, could be Gonzaga. I mean, Purdue, I don't trust them. Clemson's banged up, and they could cruise to the Elite Eight. Absolutely cruise.
Yeah, I mean, I got them going all the way. I mean,
so do I. I haven't won it all.
Yeah. Notice this on mine. It has your.
Oh, sorry. My indentation.
Yeah, it's on every. Well, here's all of Rhett's picks.
Yes.
I was like, you picked Houdini to win? Oh,
yes.
It's Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but that makes it. See, but that's a good way to go because everybody's going to have. I would probably say 75 to 80% of everybody has probably Florida or Duke winning it.
Yes.
I mean,
which. Depending upon how many pools you do,
I'm doing so many.
I know.
I'm definitely doing one that's going to have Florida, one's going to have Duke,
so
and
that
then
way
I'll go
you're
have
live in something.
Yeah. Then I always have I always do I call it fantasy bracket. I always do 2 brackets. I go one, we're just going to go with some things that kind of make sense. It's boring. I'm not going to the final top 4, but then I'll pick some shit that's just bananas in there. Now keep in mind, neither way has ever got me a win. Yes. I have never in the history of me doing brackets ever won.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
very well. It's
I don't
very
mean perfect
hard.
bracket. I mean I've never won in any of them that I'm in. I mean people that don't even know what they're doing. They just hit auto pick, lost to them too. So
Yeah, it's difficult.
well, there's a reason that nobody's ever got a perfect bracket.
Well, yes, it's very difficult. That's why I think you can get creative on games too. Like meaning like games you actually play. Like, we talked Survivor in football. Survivor in the NCAA tournament's a lot of fun. Because you have to think like, okay, yeah, do I pick safe at a 1 seed, but then I can't take that, then I'm blocked out, come Final Four time? Or do I get knocked out because I took BYU last year thinking that they were going to win and they lose to Yale? Okay. So like where you take like these 5-6 point spread games, if you advance, you have an advantage because, you didn't lose a 1 or a 2 seed, but the whole point is survive. And then they have those other ones where I've done one in the past where now this is just luck of the draw and it just makes it fun, but a Sweet 16 pool, it's just a blind draw. You get 16 of your buddies. You put the teams in a hat, draw them.
Oh yeah,
that's my Sweet 16. That's
what we do every year. We did for NFL playoffs.
Yeah, so like
which actually I did
so
pretty
you
well,
do a Sweet 16, and you can get creative on payouts too. So like, and then also depending upon the rule, also read up on the rules on your pool, like. The ones we're doing, at least that we're in, are fairly basic as far as like their point totals. But I've done ones in the past where you get points. Like if I pick Colorado State to win because they're a 12 seed, I get 12 points on that. It almost, or upset bonuses where like if you pick an upset, depending upon how far wide the spread is, it's tiered on how many points you get. I'm just throwing stuff out there for people out there looking for different games and different angles. You can do it that way. You can get, there's just so much stuff you can do when you have 68 teams. You can get creative on playing different games and pools. But It's important you look at the rules because, some scores, which I don't necessarily like it, but I play in the pools where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's like, man, you're only giving me 5 points. And I got 3 out of the Final 4 picks. Where
a lot of those,
the ones I like where it exponentially goes were like, hey, I kind of was hanging in there in the first and 2 rounds, but I got the Final 4 and final game right, and now I'm in the like top 4 of it because you should get more points for picking the teams that went the furthest because you're picking the most games, right?
Yeah. That's usually how. Yeah,
that's where I think like, and we talked about this earlier. People can get caught up in, like I said, I love it too. Now I argue 2 sides of this, so I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth here for the first time ever. But I'm just kidding. So like, yes. Picking Yale to beat Texas A&M does not win your bracket.
Right.
Okay. It's fun to say. Mm-hmm. It's fun for bragging rights. But I will say, like, when St. Peter's beats Purdue or, some of these teams, like a 3 seed that somebody had going far, like when they're upsetting teams, like from a game theory standpoint, yes, that doesn't help me win, but it helped, like, let's say people have Maryland to go to the Final Four and it's like a high percentage, 20%. If they lose in the first round, that's 20% of the pool that you're not competing.
Yeah, exactly.
Against. So that's where those
want those points early.
That's where those upsets, meaning like, if I didn't pick Maryland to go far, let's say even to go to the Sweet 16 or even lose in the next round, it doesn't even bother me that they got upset. It's when I lose my Elite 8, my Final 4 teams, because those are the ones accruing points as you're going forward. But like, if 20% of the pool has Maryland to go to the Final 4 and they lose in the first round, that's 20% that are dead money. It's dead fucking money. Mm-hmm. Like, and so those upsets do matter when it comes to a game theory standpoint.
Because at the end, everybody's got Florida Duke.
Yes.
And then
if
they
both lose and you don't have it. So like,
we had that a couple years ago. We were talking about that in our league.
Or Virginia losing in the first, to a 16 seed.
Yeah.
If I have Virginia getting upset in the Sweet 16, I'm like, well, it's like mitigating a stock loss. It's like, okay, well, I wasn't leveraged that much into the holding, so yeah, it's a loss, but this other fucking person is out on the street, you know? Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like you'll hear these people tout like, oh, well, it's fun to pick the first round, but it doesn't win your pool. You're right. Wholeheartedly right. But you can lose it real fast.
Yeah, but I think this year would be one of those years where it's overwhelmingly 1 seeds are good. Like overwhelmingly.
I think
so chances are the average person, if you're in a pool, the average people are going to probably end up like what I'm looking at. The bottom 4, hey, guess what? You have all 4 seeds.
That's why.
Or all 4 1 seeds. So yeah.
That's why I think, if I'm looking for teams, and I'm reiterating this, to make runs, I'm looking at the bottom half of the brackets.
Yeah.
The 2 seeds to get upset. The 2 seeds to get upset. And, anywhere from the 3 to 6 seed to even a 7 seed making a run. Because once the 2 seed gets upset, the fucking bottom half of that bracket's live. It is full on. It is live. If you picked Ole Miss to make that run, you are in it. Like you just that you are rooting for an upset, even though you have them winning the first round game.
Oh yeah.
Or like I have Texas Tech going to the Elite Eight. St. John's losing in the first or second round. As long as Texas Tech wins.
Yeah, you got to. As long as you're
so like those, I played that game where it's like you're feeling good in the afternoon, and then the team you wanted to lose in the afternoon.
Yeah,
it's like sweet, okay, Texas Tech, don't fucking for me. Fuck.
Yep.
They fucking for me.
It's every year. It's every year. Like I'll be like, I had a perfect bracket going into. Nope.
Yeah.
I was like, yes.
From a game theory standpoint, like I'm looking good. Like okay, I didn't win everything, but I'm treading water, and then it's like,
oh shit.
Some like team takes an absolute shit.
Yeah. All right, man. So before we wrap up, I do want to just talk about not like in-depth gambling, but obviously sports gambling it's huge, and a lot of people are dabbling into it. So what would you say for anybody that just wants to toss a couple maybe $5-10 or one of these free bets they get? What are some ways that you'd recommend for a newbie or somebody new to gambling and that to how would you frame up how to gamble on this?
Obviously, there's many angles you can take. You're talking 32 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, I grew up sitting with my buddies and being like, hey, Kyle, $1 on the next basket, which was the first live betting experience I've ever had in my life, or hey,
I'm in on that.
We used to have some fun ones like, hey, white guy score the the next basket. It's like, I need 3-1 odds. There's only one of them out there, Like,
use your buddies a bunch of singles.
Yeah, mind you, what they didn't know is I knew the white guy averaged 33 a game or whatever.
Troy Murphy back in the day.
Exactly. But like, give me odds or like next free throw. Like you're sitting there drinking beers. Like that's just fun. That's like playing Ship Captain Crew or something with your buddies. Yeah. That's just but like if you're actually going to wager, first and foremost, we just talked about brackets and pool. Throw the seeds aside. Get rid of, focus on the actual games, okay? Because sometimes people get lost in this, and it's like I showed you, Colorado State is currently favored over Memphis. If I'm looking at the bracket, it's a 12 over a 5.
Yeah, which is
logic would tell me if I'm going by the seeds, like smash Memphis. But really, what is Vegas telling you? So don't look at the seeds. Look at body of work. Look at recency bias. But I tend to take two things around here. I like to take the points in the NCAA tournament, mostly dogs, and then sprinkle stuff on the money line.
Now, when you say
okay, I like to take the plus point, meaning take the points. So if when I say laying points, if the favorite is -3.5, the term is like Louisville is laying 2.5 points against Creighton, meaning they have to win by 3 for you to win that bet.
Gotcha.
Okay. If I'm taking the points, it's like, hey, they're giving Creighton 2.5 points. So if Louisville only wins by 2, you win.
Okay.
Okay. I think these teams, and like I said, we were going over the spreads earlier, but I like to take points and then some of these upsets and stuff like that on moneyline dogs or parlaying, and you can have some fun here. And I don't like to, we all have our Hail Mary stuff, but for instance, you take a Colorado State take a Drake to win, okay? We think they might be able to beat Missouri, right? And then you take High Point, and then you take those individually, and then you parlay them together.
Okay.
And if they both hit, that's kind of your, all right, we're drinking the good stuff.
Now
okay?
you're saying, I want to go back. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to go back because what you said rang true, okay? Because what people might hear, if you think somebody's going to win and you think somebody else might, just parlay them.
Yes.
But what you said is you play the straight bet.
Yes.
Then you see that's the biggest thing I think people miss on because then otherwise you're going in with just a parlay,
and then one misses, and then you're talking, especially if you're taking dogs, because I've been that way, but if you, for instance, you take High Points plus 295, okay, so just to take that, you're taking that, and let's say we think McNeese State is going to beat Clemson. They're plus 275. So I would take both those individual bets. Okay. I would also take the points. So I would also want on separate bets, I would take plus 7.5 and plus 7.5 for High Point. Okay.
Okay.
But if you were to parlay them together, so that plus now that's almost 14-1.
Damn, nice.
For two things to happen. The other fun thing I like to do, so like that's one. I know a guy who basically, I mean, he's spreading a lot of money out, but he takes the points on every dog in every game, and usually comes out.
Now, did you that's on or during the whole?
Not the money line. I'm sorry, takes the points on every first round game. Sorry,
okay,
every first round game.
Is it with a guy from somebody from Barstool does that too?
Whenever he just he literally goes down and just takes the dog and the points, or doesn't. He might sprinkle on the money line.
Yeah.
But just if you weren't to do anything on just for them to win and just take the points, you're going to come out ahead most often than. I mean, if you're willing to spread that much capital around, I get why you wouldn't. But that's one aspect. One thing I really like to do, we're all watching these games together, right? We're with buddies, we're sitting at home. You know, I got to navigate my daughter's birthday. It's like, you know, I mean, normally we'd be at the backer. You know,
I was like, just skip it, man. You're fine.
I was like, fuck, I got real life shit.
Technically, you did this. Okay,
yes.
You shouldn't be having sex when 9 months later it lands around the house.
Pull out of a driveway, and so, anyway, I like betting live.
Oh yeah.
Because like you can see momentum. Like it was a couple years ago, Oral Roberts made a run.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what happened, but I was gassed. I might have been working. I came home and I like laid on the couch just watching TV, and I'm watching this game. I'm like, Oral Roberts is around to stay, man, and I'm getting plus 11.5, plus this, plus that, plus. And like, so I'm just smashing the points, and then I'm like, I'll sprinkle a little bit on the money line. Like, they like won the game outright, and I'm sitting there. My wife comes in, like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, I'm fine.
Just not now.
You know, like, I need a moment to myself.
We need to speed up the internet, babe.
I have no clothes on. Like, it's like I'm by myself. You know, and that's how the first kid happened. But like, and so yeah, I like betting live because like. The books can't adjust. Even you see momentum swings in football, but like possessions, but like you'll start to see it's like, man, this team's hanging around and you're still giving me plus money or you're still, like, I mean, you know, or plus, you know, I remember Oral Roberts was like getting, I'm using this as an example, like 10 to 14 points until there was like 8 minutes left in the game and the books were like, oh, fuck. Like, you know, that's an extreme example, but like, betting these games live on spreads or like, let's say, here's another one. And I caught on to this the last couple of years. So let's say, and there's upsets, but let's say Bryant comes out to play against Michigan State. Okay. Let's say it's a 2-point game. Okay. Take a look at the live spread because Michigan State is going to go in there and get motherfucked by Izzo. And then they're going to come out or like Bryant shot off the hook at 3-point land, you know, that it's not sustainable. They went 10 of 11 from 3-point land. It's not sustainable over a court. Like, look at those type of live angles. But I like just betting. I mean, this is total eye test. Like, hey, the momentum's swinging, or hey, this team's really struggling playing against this lower seeded team. And I don't know if they're going to win, but this lower seeded team's going to hang around.
Yeah.
Like, you can just tell. Like, they're going basket for basket. They're getting stops. It's a whole thing. The one system play, and I didn't come up with this, but you know, people I listened to did. First half unders. Okay. First half unders last year got murdered. Didn't do well. So I'm saying this. But over the course of like 14 years, you're talking about a 65% hit rate. And the reason for that is this. Coaches are way more willing to take timeouts because a 15-point game in an NCAA tournament is totally different in the regular season because that's the end of their season. They don't want long runs. And a lot of these coaches, they want you to run the shot clock because they want to control possessions because possessions matter, the good ones. So like first half unders. Now there is a little bit of like, it looked like the books caught up last year, but now that almost like they're overcorrecting because everyone's now on the over. It's like, oh, here we go. First half unders traditionally have done very well. Like if you bet, hypothetically, we talked about the teams getting points or being underdogs, so they're plus money or plus points. If you look at first half unders traditionally and historically, they've been a net positive betting. So last year they went like 13 for 20, but the year prior it was like 35 and 12 or whatever the hell the math works out to for first halves. And historically it does well. The other one I look at are coaches.
Yeah.
Coaches like Syracuse when Boeheim. Okay, that's another team. They could be a 6 seed, but you're playing that fucking 2-3 zone, and Boeheim is a tremendous, like those type, like Izzo, like you're starting to lose some of these coaches, but like
experience,
and they're the ones that like understand the possessions. Hey, a team makes a 7-point run. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to call the timeout. I'm going to play. I'm going to prolong this game. I'm going to just the kind of nuance of like understanding the moment and coaching those. I think coaches is another one. But first half, like I told you off air, I'm not really in the streets like I am in football as far as props. I'm sure there's massive angles on props if you know the players. I'm sure there are. With we talk about football being soft with props, like the amount of players that these books have to track.
Yeah.
I imagine props are pretty. I just don't know it well enough to say.
Yeah, I tried to do that for last year, and I didn't know. First off, I had to go. Wait, what player did I bet on? Because I'm not even sure. Because sometimes some of the teams they rotate in and out players so much. Like if you know that if they play a team a certain way, like hey, we don't need to now run our faster 5-man. We can do this, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I didn't know enough about the.
Exactly. Another one I look at, and this is one you got to look at before the tournament starts, and this is another little angle. That I've gotten into more because there's some softer markets is like teams to make the Final Four, the Sweet 16. So Sweet 16 is one I kind of look at, but like, I'm trying to let this load, but you can get some pretty decent odds. Like, so we were talking about teams that can make runs. Where I'm trying to look for the odd here. So like one of the two teams I'm looking at was Texas Xavier, the 11 seed.
Yeah, you were saying
so
that.
Xavier's plus 750 to make the Sweet 16 and Texas is plus 900. You can get some softer odds like obviously, or like Drake to make a run. Like some of these teams that you like to upset, all they got to do is win one more game and think about it this way. If I would assume, I would have to see how the game would go. But let's say, getting Drake at plus 700 to make the Sweet 16, and let's say they do win the first round, I would assume they wouldn't be plus 700 against Texas Tech. I would assume it would be shorter. So you're also getting odds there. That getting into the future market is a little fun. Like for instance, I took one before even the tournament. Now we'll see how this plays out, but I have Oregon and BYU to make the Final Four, and I took this before seeding or anything, and I have to look at what
you mean. Oregon and BYU.
Yes,
I'm literally looking at this, going, "Let's do something different, Kyle."
No. Well, I took because I didn't know that they were going to be in the same. But
okay, I got you. Oh, so you bet
I took
ahead
it
of time
before, like, hey, I
before
like
the
this.
seed. Okay,
and so obviously they're in the same bracket. So if they play each other, I really make money. Talk about a hedge, but of course I took that risk. But BYU was plus 1,300 before even any seeding, and Oregon was plus 2,200.
Yeah.
So,
and you think Oregon's going to do better than BYU? You think they have a?
I think they're Oregon's up against Duke.
It would come down.
I think BYU can really come out of the bottom of that bracket.
You think they can get past they could make it to get past Wisconsin, and you could see them go.
I think that entire end of that bracket is wide open. Same thing with the St. John's one, like we talked about. But anyway, like those are some angles, and I talked about some games earlier in the season. But if you're actually wagering, I tend to favor, no pun intended, I tend to favor the teams that are getting points. Like they're plus 8.5, plus 6.5, plus 7, especially in these tournaments where the buttholes are tight, man.
Yeah.
Long spreads, like it's hard to cover that stuff. I typically don't take the 1 or the 2 seeds to start because it's like you're almost better off taking the 15 or the 16 seed that hangs around because it's like a 30-point spread. But, and then I like to do the first half unders, and then if I'm favoring some stuff, I look at coaches and how they match up traditionally based on their history. So, and then like I said, I'll take some money line, underdog, straight up bets, and then what you could do, this is now you got to front a little bit more money for this, but you could do what's called like, let's say I like Yale, Drake, and what was it, High Point. Okay, you can do what's called a round robin, where it's like a 3-team round robin, and so you're making, let's say, only 2 out of 3 win. But it's basically taking every possible scenario and paying you out on what you hit on.
Okay, got you.
Okay, so every 2 games. So if High Point and Yale win, you're winning some money. If all 3 of them win, you're winning on all these bets.
Gotcha.
So like it's almost like laddering per se.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's similar to almost like a ladder and a parlay.
But if only one
combined
wins,
almost.
that's not how the round robin works. But like you can do like a 3-team round robin, and if all 3 win, like you're making a lot of money. But you're getting all those different scenarios where only 2 out of the 3 teams win on that factorial.
Okay.
So like I said, so if just High Point and Yale win, you're getting that round robin, and you're getting on those different bets. So, and you can get, depending upon the book, you can get creative with like some of these 4 or 5 round robin stuff as well. But yeah, I think I like to take the points.
Yeah. No, I think the biggest thing I definitely took away first off is I like that you said is the live betting. It does a couple of things. It makes it more fun, but also they don't have a chance to really kind of catch up on the odds. Because Vegas can't really jump. They can't, change
They're
things
trying,
too.
either way.
Yeah. So it seems like you might get a head start, I guess.
Yes.
On Vegas. Another thing is too, man, because you showed me this a long time ago, like gambling. You said, because obviously I'm all about the parlay, because no matter what you bet, boy, you see that one person, because you don't see on social media the 998,000 people that didn't win off of that dollar bet. But what you do see is you see the guy that hit the dollar bet, his last 56 cents, and he made 40 grand.
Yes.
So
those are the Hail Mary ones.
Yep.
And if you want to have fun with that, then take the first. Just go. I mean, these some of these common retail books like your DK or FanDuel or whatnot, you can parlay your bracket. So like, I haven't clicked on the thing, but what I'm assuming is like you parlay like the first round.
Oh, so they've already got. So you're saying you can pull the draft, you can pull up. They've got their bracket in there. They've got their bracket.
Your Hail Mary.
Hey, the Super Bowl saved me picking the correct score for one quarter. Remember we did
exactly.
All right, do this.
Yeah.
The squares or whatever you showed me. I was like, yeah. I somehow picked like second quarter correct. I was like, oh, that's open. Could you show me that chart that was like, I was like, why is nobody? It was like plus 400 or something for this one number. I was like, well, that's easy. Do that. I think it was 7-0. I think is what it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Or and if you really want to have some fun and you're just trying to throw some, money at it and you're sitting with your boys, take the noon and 2:00 games, parlay them together. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just go with what you have in your bracket or who you think's going to win. And then, you're going to get great odds even if you're picking favorites. So like, you can have fun that way. I like to, like I said, I like to do something like that on a parlay. And then I like to take like I said, the underdog, and then like, hey, let's see if I get all 4 of these right, and it's mayhem. Like, oh Jesus Christ! Now we're having some fun. But
you're sweating that bet.
But really, you really should just take those individually and parlay them. Mm-hmm. But your expectation on your parlay for that should be exactly what it is, like very low.
Yes. Damper hesitation. There, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. You win 3 out of the 4, and you're going to the
exactly.
fourth game.
So like, and that makes sense.
Crack
too.
the beers open and let's have some fun. Because even if you lose, it's still fucking fun. I mean, obviously we're competitive, but that sweat is real. And then you're debating on the cash out option because they're probably offering you a cash out, but
always
that's low.
Just look at the cash. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Just know, because my thing is, my problem is I'd make so many bets. I'd be like, all right, I'm not gonna sit here and look at every one of these and sweat this bet. But then I would forget it. Like some of them were eligible for a cash out. So I'm like, oh shit. But well, good shit, man. I mean,
it's great to catch back up.
Hell yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I'm glad to pick your brain with shit like this, because I really, when it comes down to it, it is still a crapshoot. I mean, that's what's so weird that literally you think that, I mean, out of this many years, no one's ever picked every single team right. Like, it doesn't look like it would be that hard to do. But when you start doing the math of every single, like the million, it just gets all, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, good shit, man. Well, I appreciate it. I hope people at home, hope you enjoy this. I will post this 10 minutes after the brackets are supposed to be filled out.
There we go.
I'm just kidding.
Yes, yeah.
And we sneaking my stuff.
Well, yeah, if you want some game theory against mine, fine. You're probably going to lose.
He said, just don't be in my groups, please.
Yes. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yep.